Hey everybody, just doing a Musty Wargamers challenge update on my Beastmen. Since the last video, I have primed them. Well, first I put my epoxy sculpt on the bases and primed them, and I've now gotten to the point where I'm doing base painting. I've had to do a little bit of thought about how I want to approach this army. You'll notice I have some of my Mordheim Beastmen in the back there out of view. Just looking at how I did them before, a bit more in the cartoonish Oldhammer style, which is what I was shooting for. But I wanted to think, I was thinking about this army, and I might do something slightly different, like not a total departure, but just slightly different. Now I have these grouped in 3 groups here. I've not gotten all the base paint on. I've gotten sort of the initial layer of fur skin, you know, some clothes and hoofs and horns and some chainmail, some clothing, but I've not done weapons and shields, and there's still stuff. Actually, the guys in the middle, I've not done the horns yet. Haven't done anything that's wood on them or anything like that, and so still a fair bit of a way to go, but kind of getting there. I ended up putting the shields on that came with some of them originally. Now an example of that would be like this one here. Is an original shield, sort of like that flat circle with the nubs around the rim. But I also 3D printed some shields because I didn't have enough, and I actually found these ones to be quite nice. Now these are wooden ones. They're kind of almost like a Viking shield, but they have some planks in the shield with a you know, a little metal fixture point on the front. Not sure what that's called on a shield, but I thought it came out pretty good. The 3D printed shields kind of don't look as good before the primer's on. This is actually the back. But it's actually not too bad. As far as the shields go, I was kind of thinking what I might do is I might paint these ones that I have that have like a wood, like wood planks, as having like a Chaos Undivided star, like black star on a red, sort of vibrant red background. But then the classic shields, I'm thinking I'm gonna try my hand at some chaos faces. Since this is sort of Oldhammer, I'm gonna try to do some chaos sort of demon faces and monster faces. See how that goes. I might have to reverse on that if I don't do as good as I think I can on that. I've seen some tutorials on it, and really there aren't techniques that I haven't done already, so I'm thinking that I could probably pull it off. So, speaking of Chaos Undivided, before I get to the Beastman skin, I'm kind of, despite the fact that you see sort of like a greenish hue here, and this sort of very, like a sort of roddy brown kind of look, I'm not specifically going for Nurgle. Like some of these guys are just going to have their normal armor plating, like it's not going to be like a Nurgle scheme or anything like that. I just wanted sort of more, I guess, commonplace garment looking things, not too flashy because they're Beastmen. But if you notice, I actually have a lot of red as an accent color too. So, you know, that could be interpreted as corn, you know, for those of you that know the background for Warhammer, like the different chaos gods. It's the more warlike god that has the red, and then the more rotting kind of stuff is like Nurgle, the god of decay. I'm kind of just painting them up as a Chaos Undivided army, although probably in a way that if I really wanted to use them for any of them, I could potentially suit them up for a particular god in some cases. So I may have some characters that could potentially be that, because given the size of the army that I'll be painting eventually, it might be nice to have some variety in how I choose the chaos marks. So that's kind of what I'm doing as far as choosing colors. I do like the color scheme so far of just the non-fur stuff. Before I talk about that, like even just this here, like it's not a bad place to start with. The horns are a little brighter than I want them to be. I'm actually going to do, I did just a Shabti bone, I believe, as the base, but I'm going to do a glaze of a darker tone first, and then some Agrex Earthshade, and then highlight them back up. I don't want them to be this bright. To be honest, these guys are looking really rough right now. It's just I'm kind of working with base paint, and so right now they're rough. They're not anywhere where I want them to be. And speaking of that, you may not notice this, but I'm just going to focus in here a bit. I actually am doing 3 different color schemes. Like these guys over here, pardon me, are gray. And so this style of goatish kind of looking thing is going to be more of a series of grays, similar to the way I did that Minotaur in the back there, and including this champion. But then these 2 middle ones here, from that distance, this distance, they may look exactly the same, but if you look closely, you may notice that this particular guy here, and this whole crowd that's with him, is a little bit more red than the browns here. And the reason for that is I used both of them Vallejo Scorched Earth, or Charred Brown I should say, which is a dark brown I like to use, 1-to-1 with different colors. So for this one I used Coat d'Arms Hairy Brown, which is more traditional brown. And then for these guys here, I used Rat Brown, which is more reddish brown. So I am trying to mix up the colors, and although right now it's like only barely noticeable, when I actually start highlighting and diverging from this point, it's really going to show up. Like these guys are going to look different, these 2 different browns, pretty significantly. But right now they all just kind of look brown. And so one thought with this that I wouldn't say I struggle, but I put a lot of thought into. I like the way I did my Beastmen before, and they have that very cartoonish Oldhammer look that in some cases existed. What I'm trying to do is sort of hit a little bit of a happy medium, and I am going to do all my bases Goblin Green, like old style. Like I'm going to be, I do want to make these guys like a bit of an Oldhammer army, but when I look at Beastmen and like the artwork, the thing that strikes me is that they look more impressive and sinister looking when they have a bit of a human component to them. So like the Ungors, which are not here, but they're like the Beastmen that are sort of like humans that are in their first stage or closest to humans as Beastmen. They look very human, and because of that, they almost look kind of demonic, and they look a little scary looking because they have that sort of human-esque look. And it's in some ways what I think people refer to in horror as like the reason Dracula is scary, to some folks. It's that when you see the human and the monster, it gives you something more to identify with, and it gets creepier than sometimes seeing something that you can't relate to. And so I notice a lot of Beastmen, people paint them across the spectrum, but it used to be that sometimes people would choose to paint them where they basically had human skin with just a Beastman head. Some people would paint them where they're just completely fur and that's it, and that's the way I did it before with my cartoonish look. What I'm experimenting with is I'm going to have these 3 different color tones to have some variety in the army, but then I'm going to look at, for the gores, having a little bit of glazing at the end and some of the raised surface areas to blend and to show some human skin like underneath, or human flesh like at certain parts underneath the fur, to give a bit of a lightness there, to show. I want them to have a bit of a sinister, creepy look is kind of what I want, like at least a touch of it. I don't want them to just be one solid color highlighted up. And so I think that's the way I'm going to go, to see how I can achieve that. And in the gores, which are, these guys have a further transformation, like I kind of indicated earlier, than the ungores, which are closer to humans. And I think when I do my ungores in the future, I'm going to kick it up a notch on the human flesh mixed in with the Beastmen flesh. But so they're going to, have probably 50% or more human flesh tones, where these guys I'm probably aiming at somewhere between 10 and 20%, maybe more likely 10 to 15% human flesh tone in my head. That sort of is just kind of there under the surface of what you're looking at, like where you can just kind of see it. Raised surface areas where the light catches it, you can see these guys were human. And I just think it might achieve the effect that I want a little bit more. With the army as a whole, because the Mordheim or Warband that I use for a separate game, and although I could use them in this army, like they're not really intended for that. But now I'm starting on a journey here with these Beastmen, and I don't want to start out the wrong way. So I kind of put a lot of thought into that. So that's where I'm at. We're at April 10th. I think I've actually I'm doing okay on my timeline. I think I'm cooking along. Once I get the base painted here, I'll be on my way to highlighting and glazing and doing washes and all that fun stuff. And I'll probably do the shields last, is what I'm thinking. I'm probably going to work on those faces, or at least start thinking about that and doing faces towards the end of that. The very last thing I'm going to do is the giant that's sitting right back there. But I think the shields will be, the old Hammer style Chaos shields will be last. So, I hope everybody's doing well with their projects that are part of this. I am going to do some shout-outs now, because although I've done them haphazardly, I don't think I've succinctly named everybody that's kind of involved in different ways in this project. We've had the most involvement this time. It's a lot of fun. Still a small group of us, but actually it's a group of us, which is great. Where before it was kind of Rusty and I and a couple of folks, this has actually grown this time, which is wonderful. And so we have this year so far, we've got, in no order of importance, we've got Dan Booman, we have got Stig of the Dump, we've got Jankmaster, we've got Bill over at Landshank, and gosh, I hate forgetting people because we are actually getting more and more. I don't want to forget anybody, but it's of course Rusty as well. And I think that's it. I don't think anybody else has jumped in or said that they haven't shown anything yet. If not, I apologize if I forgot somebody, but I believe those are the folks. So in total, that would make us at about 6 of us this year, which is really kind of cool. I'm guessing, in my weird math. I think that's probably right. Well, I hope everybody is going to have a great weekend, and I will be back at you with more of this progress, and looking forward to see your stuff. Take care.